So in the last session, we have discussed the various data types that we have in Apex programming and what exactly the data type and what it represents. What are the various categories of data types available in Apex, like the primitive data types and the subject data types we have discussed. Okay. Now today we'll see some more fundamental building blocks, and then we'll see how many ways are there to write an Apex programming code, and how many ways are there to execute your Apex programming code, and how to write some small programs, and how can we implement our own custom business logics. We'll see practically one by one. Okay. Now let's see the concept of operators. So now tell me, what do you mean by an operator basically? What operators generally you are aware of? Plus, minus, multiplication, division, okay, equality, not equality, like that you are aware of so many operators. Now tell me, what do you mean by an operator basically? Perform some operations. For example, assume that I'm having two values, 100 and the 5600. So now both will be of type what? Numerical. On these numerical values, what kind of operations we can do? We can perform some mathematical operations or arithmetic operations we can do. Like we can perform some addition, and we can perform the subtraction, multiplication, division, like that. These are some mathematical operations we can do on these values. Why? Because these two are numerical. So on the numerical values, we can perform only the mathematical or arithmetic operations. Now to perform that addition operation on these two values, I'm using a plus symbol. I'm using a plus. Plus is what? It's an operator. Then in this case, to perform that addition operation between these two values, can I use some dollar symbol instead of plus? No, because plus is nothing but an operator which is having some behavior. It is having some functionality that it is going to be receiving the two input values, and those two values it is performing some operations. In this case, we are going to be using that plus symbol. So plus is nothing but what? A symbol. It's a standard symbol in order to perform the addition on the two numerical values. We can't use any other symbols. Now this plus symbol has been especially designed to perform the addition operation on the numerical values. So in this case, we are using this plus symbol to perform some addition operation on what? On these two values. These two values are called as what? Operands. These are called as operands. So operator is nothing but a symbol which performs some operations on operands. So it will collect both these operand values, and on this operand it is performing some operation. That is addition operation it is performing right now. So each and every symbol will be having its own notation, its own behavior, its own functionalities available. So if I am using the multiplication star symbol, it is performing that multiplication operation on these two values. Okay. Now in this case, every notation, every symbol will be having its own standard behavior, standard functionality. So in this case, when coming to that operator is nothing but a symbol which performs some operations on operands. Okay. Now tell me, what are the various kinds of operators that you are aware of that? When coming to that operators in Apex programming, we have various categories. Apex has given the various categories of operators here. Now, the first category of operator is arithmetic operators. These are also called as mathematical operators. Arithmetic operators are mathematical operators. So now tell me what arithmetic operators you are aware of or what mathematical operators you are aware of. Addition, that means plus symbol. Subtraction, multiplication, division, modulus, nothing but remainder. So how can we use for the modulus? Generally in other programming language we are using percentage. But Apex programming won't support this percentage here. In order to get that remainder value, that means if you want to perform that modulus operation, we have to use a method called as math.mod. Okay, math.mod. Math is nothing but a standard class which is having so many ready-made functions which are used to perform the mathematical operations on that input values. If you want to perform some mathematical operations, like as you can perform some normal mathematical operations also, and we can perform some trigonometrical operations also. All these operations you can perform by using the methods available inside this math class. Okay, the math is a standard class which provides so many ready-made methods. From those methods, one of the method is mod. By using this mod method, we can able to perform the modulus operation. Like for example, I'm using that some math.mod. I'm passing the value 5, 2. Then what is the result now in this case here? Now what is the result in this case? Now it is returning that value as 1. Because I'm going to be dividing the 5 by 2. Then in this case you will be having quotient value, remainder value. If you want to get the quotient value, then we have to use that division. If you want to get the remainder value, we have to use that modulus operation. Okay? Like for example here, if I'm giving that 5 by 2, then what it returns now? It returns the value as 2. Then think about the quotient value. If I'm using that, the mod of 5, 2, it will be returning the value as 1. That means it will be returning the remainder value to you. To get the remainder value, we are using mod function. To get that quotient value, we are using that division operator. Okay? So these are the various mathematical operators are available when coming to your Apex programming. Now, for example, assume that I'm having the two values, 1000 plus 4500. Now, what is the value it will return to you? It is returning that 5500. So it is having that both the operands are of type numerical, so that on this numerical values it is performing that addition operation. Now, for example, I am giving the value like this. Welcome 6000. What it returns now? What it will do? Will it show any compilation error? Runtime error? Will it perform some operation? If yes, what is the result? Okay. In this case, what it will do? One is string, second one is numerical. I am using plus symbol here also. In this case, plus symbol is having two behaviors. Okay, it is having two behaviors. Whenever I am using the plus symbol to perform the operation, if both the operands are type numerical, it will perform the addition. If any of the operand is of type string, okay, if any of the operand, it may be this one or either this one or both also, whatever. If any of the operand is of type string, it will do the concatenation simply. Okay, it will do the concatenation. Simply it will return the value, welcome 6000. Okay, this is the behavior. Depends upon the input values which was supplied, the plus symbol is behaving differently here. Okay. So in this case, operator is same, but depends upon the input values, depends upon the operands, it is providing the different results to you. Okay. Now, if you are passing both are of type numerical, it will perform the addition. If you are passing any of that value are of type string, it will do the concatenation operation simply. Okay. Clear? Now, so these are the two behaviors are available as part of your plus operator here. Okay. Now, next one. So now, by using these arithmetic operators, we can able to perform some mathematical calculations on your input values. Okay. Now, the second category of operators. Relational operators are comparison operators. Relational operators are the comparison operators. So what relational operators that you are aware of, what comparison operators you are aware of? These are not new. Okay, already you are aware of in your mathematics in your childhood. Less than, greater than, less than or equals to, greater than or equals to, not equals to. Okay, these are the various relational or the comparison operators are available here. Okay, these are the various relational or the comparison operators are available in order to compare the two values. Okay, in order to compare the two values, either which one is the biggest one, which one is the smallest one, both are equals or not, both are not equals. To compare this kind of to compare the values, we are using these relational operators or comparison operators. Okay, now. So now here in this case, for example, I'm having that value, okay, 1000 equals to 1000. What it will returns now? What is the result? Both are same or not? Yes. If both are same, what it will returns? True. If both are not same, it will returns false. Okay. Now, in this case, for example, I'm having the two strings here. Welcome equals to welcome. Now, what is output in this case here? I'm using that welcome equals to welcome. Both are same or not? Same. So what it will returns? True. Now, for example, I'm using like this. Hello equals to hello. Now what is the result now? True or false? Why false? Here H is capital letter, here H is small letter. In this case, what will happen? Will it be returning the value true or will it return the value false? Now, in this case, whenever I am using this equality symbol is going to be comparing the two values without considering the case. It won't bother about the case. Whether it is uppercase, lowercase, whatever. It won't bother about that. Here inside this word, we are having totally 5 characters are there. Here also 5 characters. Both are same. So it will enter into that each and every character here. It will verify. The first character H. Here also first character is H. But here it is capital, here it is small. But in this case, equality operator don't bother about that uppercase or lowercase. Simply it will verify this is H. This is also H or not. That's it. Is it small H, capital H? It won't bother about that thing. Simply it will be comparing. Here also H, here also H. So both are same. Next, here also second character. Here also E, here also E. Here also the remaining characters are same. So it is returning that value as true. Okay, it is returning the value as true. So why? Because when coming to the equality operator, it is going to be comparing the values. Whenever we are going to be comparing the values, we have two types of comparisons in Salesforce. Okay, we have two types of comparisons. First one is the text comparison. Second one is the binary comparison. Okay, in Apex programming, we have two types of comparisons: text comparison and binary comparison. So now, what do you mean by text comparison? What do you mean by binary comparison in this case? How can we implement text comparison? How can we implement binary comparison? Okay, now let's see. It's a common question in every interview here. Okay, so now let me explain. For example, I'm having two words. Hello. I'm using that. Okay. Now in this case, whenever I'm going to be comparing the two characters or the two words by using that equality symbol is going to be purely using the text comparison. This purely using text comparison. What the text comparison will do basically, text comparison is going to be simply comparing the characters, that's it. Because simply it is comparing the characters here. First of all, it will collect these characters over here. Because the first character it will complete here. It will collect the first character. From here it is collecting the next character here inside this. So now both are same or not. Now, even though it may be uppercase, lowercase, it won't bother about that. Simply it is verifying that here also H, here also H are not. That's it. Now it will collect that second character here. It is collecting the second character from here. It will compare both. Now both are same. Next, the third character, it will collect that. Here also it will be collecting the third character. Both are same. And it will collect that fourth character here. Fourth character, here also the fourth character. Both are same. And then the last character here. And here also the last character. And both are same. Now it is indicating that all the characters are same. So now these two strings are equals. So it is returning the value true. Okay? Because here, when coming to the text comparison, it won't consider about the case sensitivity. Okay? It won't consider the case sensitivity. Simply it is ignoring the case. Okay? Simply it will ignore the case. Just it will compare, okay, whether it is H and this is also H or not. That's it. It won't bother about is it uppercase, lowercase, whatever, it won't bother about that. This is the behavior of text comparison. Okay? Now, when you go to that binary comparison in this case here, if I'm using that binary comparison, in this binary comparison, for example, I'm using that the two words, welcome and the welcome. So here I'm giving that welcome as some small. Okay, two words are available. Here also welcome, here also welcome. But here W is capital, here W is small. I want to use that binary comparison here. What the binary comparison will do basically in this case? Now binary comparison is going to be, first of all, it will verify how many characters are there here. Here we are having 7 characters, here also 7 characters, both are same. Suppose for example, if this word is like as some welcome 1, then here how many characters are there? 7. Here 8. So both are different. Straightforward, it is indicating that both the strings are different. But in this case here, assume that both are same number of characters are available. Then it will be digging into each and every character comparison. Character by character, it will start comparing the characters over here. Now in this case, it is going to be collecting the first character here. Okay, it will collect the first character. This is the first character. Here also it will collect the first character. Once the characters have been getting collected, then it is collecting that ASCII code of this character here. Okay, it is collecting that ASCII code of this character, ASCII value. I think you are aware of that. For each and every character, you will be having an ASCII code. Like for example, if it is a capital A, it is having the ASCII code of some 65. Capital B, 66. Capital C, 67. Like that here you will be having the characters here. Nothing but ASCII codes. Suppose if it is a small a, for the small a we are having that 96. For the small b, 97. For the small c, 98. Like that here we are having that ASCII codes for that. That means for the uppercase letters a different ASCII code, for the lowercase letters different ASCII code is available. Now it is collecting the ASCII code of this particular capital W, it is collecting the ASCII code of this small w also. Once the ASCII code has been getting collected, then it is going to be converting that ASCII code value into that binary format. Okay, it will be converting that ASCII code value into the binary format. It will collect that binary value. Binary means what? Zeros and ones. Now here also it will be collecting that binary value of this ASCII code. Once the binary values has been getting collected, then it is going to be comparing these two binary values here. Okay, it is comparing both the binary values now. What are the two binary values are available? Both the binary values it will compare if both are same or not. In this case, capital W will be having a different ASCII code, small w is having different ASCII code. So ASCII codes are different, automatically binary codes are also different, so both are different over here. So now it is indicating that both the strings are different. Then how can we compare this kind of binary comparison? For that one here, to do the binary comparison inside our Apex programming, we are using a method called as equals method. We are using that equals method. Equals method is purely applying on that binary comparison here. Okay. Now equals operator, nothing but equality operator will do the text comparison. Equals method is doing that binary comparison. It's a common question in every interview. Difference between equality operator and equals a function. Equality operator is purely using do that the text comparison where it won't consider about the case sensitivity. Just it is going to be comparing the characters, that's it. But when you go to that equals function is going to be comparing the two characters by considering the case. That means it is using that binary comparison. It is not comparing the text directly. It is collecting the ASCII value of each and every character. It will convert that ASCII value into the binary format. That binary format of content will be getting compared automatically. So that we can use that exact characters. Okay? Clear? In this case, now this capital W, small w, both are different. So in this case, it is returning that both the strings are not same, both the strings are different here. Okay? Clear? Now. Understood the concept? Now, for example here, come to a general scenario. Assume that I'm having a login screen. In this login screen, we have to enter the username, we have to enter the password. And then we have two buttons are available, login button and the cancel button. Now tell me from these two, which value we are comparing by using text comparison, which value we are using by using binary comparison. Here we are having username text box, password text box, and then login button, cancel button. Now from these two values, username and the password, which we are going to be using text comparison, which we are using binary comparison now. Password is what? Binary comparison or text comparison? Binary comparison here. Now, username, text comparison. Upon logging into the application, username we can enter any characters, all are upper, all are lower, combination also we can enter. But password we have to enter in exact format only. Okay, exact format. So that here, passwords are purely comparing with the help of binary comparison. It's purely binary comparison. Okay, now, for example here, come to a general scenario inside your Salesforce instance. For example, I'm having this account records are available. So I'm having an account record with the name Edge Communications. This account record is available. For this account record, we are having that ID is available. This is the ID which has been generated by Salesforce. For every record, Salesforce is generating a 18 characters alphanumerical number. But in the URL, it will display only the first 15 characters ID. Last 3 characters will not be visible because of the security reasons. Okay, now. So in this case, now tell me, this record ID is a case sensitive ID or case insensitive? Case sensitive ID here. Now here upon going to be trying to be getting the data, okay, now here I'm entering that E as some capital here. E is small basically. Okay, now here I'm entering the E as capital here. When you press enter, are we able to get the data? No, I'm unable to get the data over here. That means what here, whenever I'm going to passing the record ID is going to be purely comparing with my database with binary comparison. So now here I'm entering this E as small. Okay, E as small. Now we can able to fetch the information here. That means your record IDs are purely the case sensitive IDs, which will be purely comparing with the help of binary comparison. So exact characters we have to enter. Okay, now. So now here in this case, when coming to the Salesforce, these are the two types of comparisons that we have. Text comparison and the binary comparison here. Now, in order to use this text comparison, we are using that equals operator, okay, equality operator. To use the binary comparison, we are using that equals a function. Okay, now. So now here in this case here, we are going to be using this equality operator, and along with that, we are using that equals a function. Okay, which will use the binary comparison. So now it is using the test comparison. So I'm not giving the notes because already I have given that entire documentation inside your hard copy. Everybody is having the development book, right? In that one clearly I have documented each and every point inside this. Okay, now the third one, the third category of operators. The third category is logical operators. Logical operators. So now what logical operators that you are aware of that? And are not. Then why we are using these logical operators generally? What is the purpose of using these logical operators? To check some conditions. Directly we can write the condition like the value equals to some so and so, industry equals to banking, like that. Multiple conditions. Okay, multiple conditions to group together. Like for example, assume that I want to apply for a voter ID card. In this case, to apply for the voter ID card, first of all, they are verifying the eligibility criteria. So what will be the eligibility criteria for that to apply the voter ID card? Two conditions are there. First one, you should be the citizen of India. Second one, you should be having minimum 18 years of age. If both are satisfied, then only you are eligible to apply for the voter ID card. If any of the condition is not satisfied, then you are not eligible. That means what? They are verifying my citizenship and they are verifying my age also. If both are satisfied, that means they are clubbing multiple conditions together to prepare a compound conditions. In order to prepare the compound conditions, by grouping the multiple conditions together to do the validation, we are using this logical operators. Logical operators are used to prepare the compound condition. Compound means what? Group. Okay, collection of conditions. We are grouping together to validate the information. Okay, so for that one, we are using this logical operators. Now, what logical operators we are aware of that now? And are not. These are the three logical operators. And operator will be getting denoted in the form of what? Two ampersand symbols. R will be getting denoted with the help of two pipe symbols. Not will be getting denoted in the form of a exclamation symbol. These are the notations are available. So logical operators are used to prepare the compound conditions. In order to prepare the compound conditions, we are using these logical operators, and these are the three logical operators that we have. And are not. Now, the fourth category of operators. Increment or decrement operators. Increment or decrement operators. Sometimes I want to increment the values, sometimes I want to decrement the values. In this case, as part of Apex programming, we are having some increment operators are available, decrement operators are also available. Now tell me what increment operators that you are aware of. We are having that plus plus and then minus minus. Now what this plus plus represents, what this minus minus represents. Plus plus is going to be incrementing the value by 1. Okay. Minus minus is going to be decrementing the value by 1. Okay. Now it will increment the value by 1. Now the minus minus operator is going to be decrementing the value by 1. Suppose for example, assume that I am having some customer code. Customer code value I am having like as some 100001. Okay. Customer code value I am having 100001. There is a variable with the name customer code which is having some value 100001. So now this is the first customer code. Now today I got one more customer here, a new customer. What is the code we need to generate now? 100002. Then how can we get that value? In this case here, what we can do? Customer code plus plus. So that it is going to be returning the value as 100002. Like that, here to increment the value by 1, we are going to be using this plus plus operators. Now, for example, I am having the value some age, like some 34. So now in this case here, okay, what we can do? I want to decrement the age by 1. Then what we can do? Age minus minus here. Okay, age minus minus. So now here in this case, whenever if you want to increment the value by 1, then we are going to be using that plus plus. If you want to decrement the value by 1, then we are using that minus minus, which is going to be decrement the value by 1. These are the two operators are available as part of increment or decremental operators. Okay. Now, so now here I'm incrementing the value by 1. I'm incrementing the value by decrementing the value by 1. Now sometimes I want to increment the value by 2, 3, 5, 1,000, 10,000. What we can do? If you want to increment the value by 2, then do we need to write plus, 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 plus 4 times? No. Then what we can do? In this case, in order to increment the value by a specific number, it may be 2, it may be 3, it may be 5, it may be 10,000, whatever, anything. We are using that operators called as assignment operators. We are using that assignment operators here. Then what assignment operators that we have right now? Okay, now let me explain. In order to assign the value, we are using this assignment operator. Simply 1 equals. Okay, observe the difference here. If I am using this equals, now simple it is indicating assignment. If I am using 2 equals, it is indicating that equality, nothing but comparison here. Okay, this is assignment, this is comparison here. Okay, observe the difference. Now, so now in order to assign the value, we are using this assignment operator here. For example, I am having the customer balance because a balance amount. Now the customer is having some balance as some 10,000 here. In his bank account, he is having the balance. Today, customer has visited the bank branch again. He has deposited 4,000 more. Again, he has deposited 4 more thousand into his account here. Then how can we increment this value now? Then generally what we can do, we are using that balance amount equals to balance amount plus 4,000. Today he has deposited 4,000 more here. In this case, it will be having the value as totally 14,000. But now, in this case here also I have written the balance amount, here also I have written the balance amount. 2 times I have written this value. In this case, don't write that same variable again and again and again. Try to optimize that. Why? Because when coming to the Salesforce has given that so many configuration features by default. As part of admin, we have discussed so many configuration features which can be implemented with the help of mouse clicks without writing any code, without using any programming language, without having any technical skills. Like if you want to create an object, go with the mouse pointers. To create the user interfaces, go with the mouse pointers. To create some validations, go with the mouse pointers. To create some users, profiles, sharing mechanism, assignments, everything we are doing with the help of that mouse pointers itself. We are not writing any code. We are not using any programming language as of now. Now, in this case, if there is any some exceptional cases where if the requirement is very, very complex, which cannot be possible through configuration, if that requirement is not fulfilled with the help of configuration, if that is not possible through mouse clicks, then what we can do, we have to come to the development part here. There, we need to write some piece of code by using the programming languages offered by the Force.com platform. With the help of that programming language, we can write some business logic. Through the business logic, we can achieve our functionality, whatever we need. So in this case, upon writing that code, don't write that code again and again and again. Please write that code in the form of a generic format. Don't make that code duplicate. Don't make that code complex. Don't make that code lengthy. Try to optimize that code here. Try to reduce the number of lines of code. For that one, Salesforce has given the limitation that in your entire organization, we can able to write maximum of 60 lakhs Apex characters code, not more than that. Whatever the code that we are writing right now through Apex programming, each and every character will be counting by Salesforce. Every character will be counting by Salesforce. If in the entire organization, in your entire Salesforce account, if the whole character's code is reaching to 60 lakhs, from there you can't write any other code over here. This is the limitation given by Salesforce. Inside an organization, we can able to write maximum of 60 lakhs Apex characters code, not more than that. So that here, upon writing that code, we have to keep in mind those governor limits. So don't write that code in the lengthy manner. Try to optimize that code, try to reduce that code, so that if the number of lines of code has been getting reduced, then to compile the code, it will take less time, to execute the code, it will take less time, so that we can make our application development very faster, and we can make the application execution in the faster speed. For that reason here, always we have to make that code as generic. Don't write that same code again and again and again. Try to reduce that duplicate code over here. For that one, instead of writing this kind of lengthy statements, like as here I'm writing that balance amount equals to balance amount plus 4,000. The same statement we can able to write like this also. We can able to specify the balance amount plus equals to 4,000. Simple. We can make it short. So now in this case, both the statements are equals. Okay, both are equals. You can follow either this format, you can follow either this format. But whenever we are writing that code, don't follow the lengthy formats. Go with the optimized way. Why? Because whenever we are working in an organization as a Salesforce developer, after developing the code, okay, you will be having the code review stage. Once the development has been done, okay, one of your team member will review your code, whatever the code that you are written, other people will review your code. In that code, they will be verifying all these things. Have you followed all the principles? Have you followed all the optimization techniques to upon implementing that code or not? They will verify all the things. So that here, make it habituated to write that code in an optimized way. Make that code generic. Don't make that redundant code again and again and again. So for that one here, whenever we are going to be writing the code, we have to make sure our code should be always generic. It should not have any lengthy formats. For that one here, in order to increment the value, in order to assign the value, we are using that one more operator, that is plus equals to. Now if you want to increment the value by 1, then we can go with that plus plus. If you want to increment the value by 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 1,000, 1 lakh, at that time, go with that plus equals. Okay, plus equals. Like the similar way here, we are having that minus equals. For example, today, the customer has visited my bank branch, he has withdrawn all the 3,000 rupees over here. Then what we can do in this case? We are going to be deducting 3,000 rupees from the balance amount. So that I would like to specify balance minus equals to 3,000. Now he will be having that 11,000 rupees as a balance now. Like that. We can able to use that plus equals to, minus equals to, multiply equals to. You can multiply equals to. For example, today the customer has deposited 11,000 again over here. So now here I am indicating that. So now balance equals to, balance amount into equals to 2. Now he will be having the value as 22,000. That means 11,000 into 2. Okay. Now you will be having 22,000 inside this. Like the similar way, divided by equals to. So now here if I am writing that the balance amount by equals to some 2. In this case, it is returning the value as 11,000. Like that here, we have to follow some optimized techniques over here upon writing that code. These are some best practices we have to follow. These are not rules, but these are the best practices upon writing the code. Why Salesforce has imposed this kind of limitations? Why can't we write unlimited number of characters of code? Why? Because Salesforce is not providing a dedicated server to you. Already you are aware of that. As part of server instances concept that already we have discussed that Salesforce is purely supporting multi-tenant architecture. Because of that multi-tenant architecture, now Salesforce is not providing a dedicated server for every customer. Whenever a customer wants to use Salesforce services, it is allocating some amount of memory space inside that server. So if I'm writing some huge lines of code inside my organization, if I'm writing so many number of lines of code, unlimited number of lines of code, to execute that application, it will be occupying some more memory. The server will be making it busy. So at that time, other customers' requests will be getting affected. For that one, Salesforce is giving the limitation. Don't come to that each and every feature through development part. I have given some plenty of features to you as part of out-of-the-box features, nothing but configuration features. Whenever you got any requirement, don't come to the development straightforward. Just to go to that admin part, please verify whether that admin features are sufficient to implement that functionality or not. If it is possible, go with that one. If it is not possible, then only come to the development. So that I would like to reduce the development part. I would like to reduce the coding part here. so that we can able to make our application development faster. We can reduce the time, we can reduce the budget also. So for that one, we can reduce the impacting on my server also. For that reason here, Salesforce is always enforcing you to go to that configuration part first. If that is not at all possible, then only come to the development part here. That's what, as part of this development part, they have given the number of characters limitations are 60 lakhs, not more than that. If you want to verify that, okay, now let's see. Let's go to your Salesforce instance. Click on that setup menu. Go to the build menu in the left panel. Click on develop. Click on Apex classes. Okay. Inside the build menu, go to the develop. Click on Apex classes. Once you click on this Apex classes, now it is indicating over here. So now you are currently using 21,058 characters here. Okay. I have used this account for the another batch also. Okay. For the development part, I have used this one. Okay. So that I have prepared some classes also inside that. Now that's what it is occupying that. So now here you are currently using 21,058 characters of Apex code, okay, in your organization out of an allowed limit of how many characters? 60 lakhs characters. Each and every character will be counting by Salesforce. Okay. If you are already reaching to 60 lakhs characters, from there you can't write any more code. So that always you have to make your code optimized. Okay, don't make your code lengthy, don't make your code complex. For that reason here they have given the limitation. We have to keep in mind all these limitations upon writing the code. Always you have to follow some best practices to make your code generic. Okay. So now in this case you have to follow this kind of optimization techniques. Okay. Instead of writing the same variable name again and again and again, we can able to use that the plus equals to, minus equals to, multiply equals to, division equals to, like that. These are the various assignment operators we can use in order to increment the value, in order to decrement the value, depends upon your need. Okay, clear? Now, so now in this case you can raise a question. Sir, for example, we are using a licensed edition, unlimited edition, for example. If it is an unlimited edition, we are developing a banking application where we have implemented so many modules as of now. We have 2 more modules to implement, but as of now we have reached to 60 lakhs characters. But still 2 more modules are pending to be get implemented. Then what we can do? Do we have any chance to extend that number of characters? Yes. If it is an unlimited edition, that means licensed edition, we can contact your Salesforce administrator. For our organization, who is the administrator? We are the administrators. Okay, because here we are having the administrative rights. So in this case, when coming to your organization, they will be having one person working like as the administrator. Contact your Salesforce administrator, ask them to extend the number of characters from 60 lakhs to some 1 crore, 1.5 crore, whatever. We can extend that. There is a possibility of extension for the licensed edition. Suppose if I am using the free developer edition, then there is no possibility to extend. For the free developer edition, the maximum number of Apex characters limit is 60 lakhs, not more than that. Okay. So why? Because why they are giving this kind of limitation is, if you want to develop everything through the coding, then no need to use Salesforce. You can go to Java, .NET also. There you can write unlimited number of characters of code. There is no limitation. But here, Salesforce wants to reduce the coding part. That's what here, Salesforce projects development time will be very, very less. Not 1 year, not 2 years, not 3 years. It will be maximum of 7 months, 8 months, 3 months projects are also there. Because most of the features are configurable. Just by using, most pointers we are implementing the features, but very rare cases we are going with the development part. Okay? So that here, Salesforce application developments are very, very faster. The time is keep on reducing. Because coding is less. If the coding is less, then time will be automatically less. Okay? So that here we can make the application development faster, we can reduce the budget also. As a developer, it is a benefit to me, we no need to have much technical skills. Even though if I am having some basic programming skills, we can manage the job because most of the features are configurable here. Very little bit coding we are writing over here. That too we can copy that code from the Google also, no problem. Okay. So in this case, we are having this kind of flexibilities here. That's what here we are having the huge demand for Salesforce nowadays in the IT industry. Everybody is adopting the Salesforce implementation because coding part has been completely reduced. Okay. Now, So now in this case, upon writing the code, we have to follow this kind of optimization techniques here. Now, so now as part of these operators, these are the various categories of operators are available inside your Apex programming. We have arithmetic operators, relational operators, logical operators, increment or decremental operators, and the assignment operators. Okay, clear? Now, the next one. Variable definition. Variables. So what exactly a variable basically here, what it represents? What is the use of variables? What is a variable basically? Okay. Now, for example, assume that I am having two values, 5,000 and the 10,000. Two values are there. On these two values, I want to perform some addition operation. So that I am using plus. Okay. Now I can able to perform the operation. I can able to get the results on 15,000 here. Now, here I have typed these values manually. I want to perform multiplication also. In this case, what needs to be done? 5,000 into 10,000. Here I need to type both the values over here. Upon typing that, if any of the digit has been missed, then will you get the right result or wrong result? Wrong result. Okay? This is the first problem here. Whenever if I am going to be using these variables, manually typing every time, because sometimes as a human being, we can do some mistakes also. Where upon typing that number, I can able to miss some one of the digit also. If the keyboard's key, one of the key is not working, then the digit will be getting missing. Because of that, we are getting some wrong results also. In this case, I don't want to get this kind of wrong results. For that one, I don't want to type these values manually by my own. At that time, I need to store this value somewhere. Whenever I need that value, I can able to collect that variable here. That is one way. Second one, for example, if the value is very lengthy. Now tell me, will you able to type this number again here without any mistakes? No. Okay. So now here in this case here, upon typing this one, we have to cross check each and every character one by one, digit one by one here, whether we have entered correct values or not. So in this case, if the numbers are very, very big, then we can't type each and every time separately. It is very, very difficult for me. For that one, what I want to do is, whatever the numbers are available, these numbers I want to store somewhere. Like for example, I want to store this value in a separate variable here. Like as some x. I am giving a notation called as some x. And then for this variable, nothing but for this value, I would like to store in some location, okay, by referencing a name called as some y. Okay, some y. So whenever if you want to use this, the values, then we can able to use x and then we can perform that y. If you want to do some multiplication, x into y. So it is going to be replacing this value automatically in the x place. It will replace this value in the y place automatically here. So no need to type that number okay, manually by our own. We can make that okay, implementation very simple. Whenever we are going to be utilizing this value, just reference that variable name here. We can use that name. For that one, in order to store the values temporarily for some time, we need a variable. Okay, we need a variable. Then what exactly the variable basically here? Okay, now let's see practically in this case. Okay, now. For example, come to a scenario. Now, assume that I'm having my memory space inside my system. Okay, I'm having some storage space in my system. So now assume that this is some totally some 100 GB of space. Okay, 100 GB of space is there. In this 100 GB of space, somewhere I have stored some value. Somewhere I have stored some value, Ram Kumar. Where I have stored, I don't know. In this center 100 GB, somewhere it has been stored. I don't know that location. Now in this case here, whenever I'm going to storing some value, okay, whenever I'm storing some value inside this memory space, it will be having some starting memory address will be available, right? Yes, it will be having some starting memory addresses available here. Now, each and every value will be getting recognized based on the starting memory address. Memory addresses are purely representing in the form of hexadecimal formats. As part of internally inside the system, it is using that assembly language programming. There it is representing each and every memory location based on that hexadecimal format. In hexadecimal format, each and every number will be starting with a 0x. Okay, in hexadecimal format, every number will be starting with the 0x. Now assume that when coming to the RAM Kumar, it has been stored in a location. That location starting memory address is, for example, 0x11 0x1x. Assume that this is the name of it. This is the memory address. Okay, this is the memory address. Now based on this memory address only, we can able to get this value Ram Kumar. Okay, based on this memory address only, we can able to get the value Ram Kumar here. This is the address here. Okay, this is the address. Based on that, we can able to get it. Now tell me, are you able to remember this memory address? No. If it is a single value, then I can buy hard. Okay, buy hard these things. Okay, for some time, we can remember. Tomorrow, I can't remember this again. Because we are unable to remember the 4-digit PIN number of your bank account. Okay, since we are using since almost 4 years. When you go to that bank, we are going to something, we are typing some wrong PIN number also. But in this case, if I am unable to remember the 4-digit PIN number, then how can we remember this much of a very lengthy, complex number? It is difficult to remember here. So in this case, suppose for example, if it is a single value, then I can able to by heart this memory address, I can remember. For example, here if I am having some more values are available. Like for example, I am having the value, some Hyderabad. I am having the value, some 25,000. Now in this case, now this value will be having some separate starting memory address. This will be having that some separate starting memory address. Now here in this case, it is having the starting memory address. For this Hyderabad, the starting memory address is some 0x0010x. This is the starting memory address. For this one, the memory address is 0x00010x. Now, so now these are the starting memory addresses of these values here. If you want to get this value Ram Kumar, we have to know this memory address. To get this value Hyderabad, we have to know this memory address. To get the value 25,000, we need to get this memory address. Now tell me, are we able to remember all these memory addresses? No. If it is one, I can by heart and I can remember this one. I can recollect. But if there are multiple, then I can't remember. I can't by heart all these things. For that one, what I want to do is, instead of collecting the value based on this memory address, I want to give a meaningful name for these memory addresses here. For these memory addresses, I want to give a meaningful name so that I can able to remember that name very easily for me here. Okay, I want to give a meaningful name. Instead of identifying the value based on that memory address, I want to give a meaningful name. Like for example, here for this particular memory address, I'm indicating like as customer name. I'm giving that name as customer name. For this one, location. Okay, location. For this memory address, I'm giving that value like as some balance amount. Okay, the balance amount. So now here for each and every memory address, I've given some reference name. Now tell me, remembering these names are easy or remembering these memory addresses are easy for you? Names are easy. So now in this case, what happened here, whenever if you want to get some value from your memory location, then instead of remembering this memory addresses, I am giving a meaningful name that is called as variable. So these are nothing but the variables here. Okay, these are nothing but the variables. Okay, variables. Then what do you mean by variable? Variable is nothing but a name which has been allocated to a memory address in order to locate a value. Okay, in order to locate a value, okay, whatever the memory address is available, that memory address I can't remember by my own because this is a very lengthy memory address and that too it is very difficult to remember, which is a very complex number. So that here I would like to give a meaningful reference name which I can able to recollect, which can able to remember very easily. For that one, we are giving a meaningful name that is called as variable. So that here, variable is nothing but a name which we are going to be allocating to a memory address in order to locate a value here. Okay? Now, in this case, what is the purpose of these variables here? Variables are used to store some values. Okay, values. Is it permanent or temporary? temporary. Permanent means what is the location? Database. Permanent storage means only one location, that is database here. So now in this case, whatever the variables are available, variables are used to store the values temporarily for your application here. Okay, till the application is executing, the values will be getting researched inside the memory. Once application has been closed, once application has been signed out, that memory will be getting released, the values will be lost. Okay, so that to store the values temporarily for some time, we are going to be using that variables. Okay, clear? Now, so now let's see here. Let's make a note of this one. Variable. Variable is nothing but a name to be get allocated to a memory location to identify a value. To identify a value. Variables are used to store the values temporarily for some time inside the application. Variables are used to store the values temporarily for some time inside the application. Then, how to define the variables inside your Apex programming? What is the syntax we need to follow? Now, the syntax. In order to define the variable, we have to specify the access specifier. Okay, access specifier and the data type and the variable name, and optionally we can able to assign the value also. Assigning the value is optional. You may assign, you may not assign. It's a secondary thing. Whatever the things that are specified inside that square braces, these are optional. Specifying the access specifier is optional, and then assigning the value is also optional here. Simply we can specify data type. That means what type of data you are going to store inside the variable, what is the name of that variable here. Okay. So access specifiers concept we are discussing during that object-oriented programming systems. As part of OOPS concept, we'll see the access specifiers concept. Fundamental things are very, very important. We are retrieving that value also by using the variable name itself directly. To use that value in the different places to perform some operations. Okay. Done? Now, in this case, what are the features that are specified in terms of square braces? These are optional. So access specified is an optional statement, and then assigning the value is also an optional statement. Okay. Now, in this case, how can we define the variable? Simply we can specify the data type. You know what data types are available here. Already you are aware of. And then you can give the variable name. Now, in this case, whenever we are going to be giving the variable name, okay, please follow some best practices here. Okay, please follow some best practices. Generally, the people are habituated to define the variables integer x, y, z, a, b, c like that. Okay, don't follow those notations. When you go to the real time, okay, we have to follow some coding standards. We have to follow some naming conventions. We can't define the variables with the name, the single characters. Just by looking into the name itself, we should be able to understand what is the purpose of the variable, what type of variable it is. We should be able to understand just by looking into the variable name itself. No need to look into the code, no need to look into the data type. If you know the variable name, we should be able to understand what is the purpose of this. Okay, so that please give a proper meaningful name for each and every variable. The first one here. Now, provide a meaningful name for the variable. Provide a meaningful name for the variable. Don't give the variables like as with the single characters. X, Y, Z, like that. Don't give that names. The second one. Whenever we are giving the variable name should be always a single word. It should not be two words. Don't give any spaces in the variable name. Variable name should be always a single word here. Okay, now. Always variable name should be a single word. That is, variable name doesn't include the spaces. Doesn't include the spaces. This is the second rule we have to follow. The third one. Sometimes you want to give the variable name like this, customer space code. But customer space code, it won't accept because space is there. It will raise that compilation error to you. So in this case, if you want to give like as two words, whatever the space is there, replace that space with underscore. Okay? It won't support any other special characters. It will be supporting only underscore character. Okay, customer underscore code. And then product underscore code. Like that, we can use underscore character inside that. But we can't use any other special character like as a dot, hyphen, comma, okay, dollar. These kind of special characters it won't support. It will support only one special character, that is underscore. Okay? Now we can include the underscore. Underscore character inside the variable name. Inside the variable name. These are few principles and these are few rules we need to follow in order to define the variables here. Upon defining the variables, we have to follow these kind of principles here. Okay? Clear? Now. So now here in this case, whenever we are going to be defining the variables, we have to follow this kind of syntax. Access specifier is optional, and then value assigning the value is also optional. Simply we can specify the data type and variable name. And that already you are aware of that every statement has to be ends with a semicolon. It's a fundamental principle of Apex programming language. Okay? Now, in this case, let's define the few variables inside this. Now, for example, assume that I want to store some product details. Okay, I want to store some product details. So assume that I'm having a product like as a laptop. For every product, what kind of details you can store? Every product will be having a product code. Okay, product code. And then it will be having the product name. It will be having that manufacturer name. Who is the manufacturer of that here? And then it is having that manufacturing date. And then expiry date of that product here. The price of that product. Whether that product is available in stock or not. I want to store all this information. Now in this case, how can we define the variables to store this information here? Okay, now let's see practically here. Okay, now let's see here. Make a small use case. Write an Apex program to define the variables to store the product details. To store the product details. In order to store the product details, I would like to define some variables here. Now tell me, it's your part. How to define the variables now first? I want to store that product code. Like as a numerical, for example. How to define? What is the name for that variable? Integer, data type, integer. I'm giving like as product code. Generally, the people are using that integer some x, okay, like as a simplest format. But don't follow this kind of formats from now onwards. Okay. So because here Even though you are technically strong in the interview point of view, if you are able to answer all the questions, finally they will be giving a small paper and pen to write some small piece of code. Based on that coding standards you are following in the code inside the paper, they can understand you are genuine or fake. Okay. So now that they may not be able to verify that whether this code is executable or not. Simply they will verify their standards. Upon writing the code, you are following the proper standards or not. Okay, please follow the proper naming conventions. Don't give the variable names X, Y, Z like that. Please give a proper meaningful name. They will look into that, the naming conventions and the standards. They can recognize that, oh, this person is already following so many standards, so now he is a genuine guy. Okay. Even though you are able to answer all the questions, at the last they will be giving a small requirement, they will be giving a paper and pen to you to write some small piece of code. If you are not following the proper standards, they will recognize that by looking into the code itself. Okay. So for that one here, okay, so now we don't want to give the chance to people. So that please follow the proper standards from now onwards. Okay. So that will be very easy to manage your job also in future. Okay. Now, I'm indicating that variable. I'm giving the data type. Integer, okay, integer, I'm going to be indicating that customer code. Okay, integer, customer code. I'm defining the variable here. So now in this case, I'm indicating that integer customer code. I'm giving the variable, sorry, the product code. I'm storing the product details, right, so that I'm using that product code. Okay. So now in this case here, I'm indicating that product code is a variable which can able to store one product code which will be of type integer. Okay. Now, in this case, now tell me, if I am defining this variable, what will happen internally by default? What is the meaning of this statement here? What this statement indicates to the Apex compiler? It will store what? Numerical values over here. Now, to store these numerical values here, we need some memory, right? How much memory will be allocating here? Why 4 bytes? This is of type integer. Integer is having fixed size, that is 4 bytes. So now in this case, whenever I'm writing this line of code, then immediately this statement is informing to the Apex compiler, the user has defined a variable with the name product code, which is of type integer. So he wants to store some numerical values. So that please assign 4 bytes of memory for this particular variable here. So now it is informing to the Apex compiler. Now the Apex compiler is going to be reserving the 4 bytes of memory here. It is reserving the 4 bytes of memory. It is reserving the 4 bytes of memory. For example, this is the 4 bytes. So now this 4 bytes of memory will be pointing to the variable here. Okay, it will be pointing to that variable. So it will be pointing to this variable over here. So now it is pointing to this variable here. Now in this case here, okay, now here in this case, now in this particular 4 bytes of memory, what is the default value will be storing by Salesforce? Do we have any default value? If it is a C programming, if I am defining like this here integer sum x, then what is the default value inside that? Garbage value. Okay, an undefined value will be storing. But in Salesforce, whenever I am going to be defining the variable here, then automatically Apex compiler is going to be reserving the 4 bytes of memory because this variable is of type data type integer. Integer requires 4 bytes of memory, so that here it is going to be allocating that 4 bytes of memory for this particular variable. Now inside that 4 bytes of memory, it is storing the default value as null. Okay, it is storing the default value as null. So that means what? If the user did not assign any value for a variable, then by default, Apex programming is storing the default value as null. Okay? This is the internal functionality of Salesforce. If I am writing this single 2 words of code, then Salesforce is going to be performing this much of operations internally by default. So now as soon as whenever I am defining the variable, depends upon the data type, it is reserving the respective amount of memory. That memory will be pointing to the variable. In that memory, by default, it is storing the default value as null. Okay? Clear? Now. So now here in this case, I am defining that product code. Next one, any other variables? I want to store the product name also and the manufacturer name also. Then what is the data type now? String. String, the product name, and then manufacturer name. Okay, the manufacturer name. Now here, can I define multiple variables in a single line here? Yes. If you want to define multiple variables in a single line, then you can able to make a comma. Because product name is also of type string and the manufacturer name is also of type string. So multiple variables we can define in a single line itself here. Next. After that, price. Nothing but amount here. Then what is the data type now? Price means what? Currency. Currency referencing which data type now? Decimal, right. Decimal unit price. Okay, decimal unit price. Nothing but the price of that product here. Next. After that, manufacturing date and then expiry date. What is the values here? What is the data type that we need to follow? Date data type. Date, manufacturing date, and then expiry date. Expiry date. I want to identify whether this product is available in stock or not. Then what is the data type we need to follow? This may be available, this may not be available. It may be true, it may be false. Then what we can do? Boolean, right. Boolean is in stock. Okay, Boolean is in stock. So I'm giving the variable names like this here. Is in stock is a variable name which I'm giving. We can give any variable name also, whatever you feel comfortable. Okay. Now here I'm indicating that manufacturing date, expiry date. Just by looking into the name itself, we can able to understand what is the purpose of this variable and what is the data type of this variable here. Like that, we can able to define the variables inside your Apex programming. Okay. Clear? Now, whenever I'm defining the variables inside my Apex programming, then have I assigned any value over here for these variables? No, we haven't assigned any value. Then how to assign the values here? To assign the values, what kind of operators we need to use? Assignment operators. What assignment operators we need to use? Simply equals. That's it. Okay. Now in this case, how to assign the values? Now let's see practically here. Okay. Now, assigning the values. So now upon defining the variables here, now make a note here. Upon defining the variable, if the user did not assign any value, then Apex compiler will assign the default value as null. Apex compiler will assign the default value as null. Based on the need, we can assign our own values to the variables. Based on the need, we can assign our own values to the variables. Depends upon your requirement, we can assign your own values also. Then how can we assign? We'll see the syntax. We can specify the variable name equals to value. Okay, variable name equals to value. That means here we are using this assignment operator here. This is for the assignments. Now, for example, I want to assign product code. Product code is of type what? Numerical. I'm assigning some value 100001. Product name. This is what? String type. Then how to store the string values? Characters. By enclosing in that single quote here. I'm indicating. Like as some washing machine. Okay. Washing machine. And then unit price. I'm assigning some 35,000. And then manufacturer name. Like as some Samsung. Samsung Incorporation or Samsung India Private Limited. Samsung India Private Limited. Like that. We can able to store the values also. Manufacturing date. For example, today is the manufacturing date here. So I want to use system.today. System.today is a ready-made method which is providing the today's date, okay, from your Salesforce server. The Salesforce server's today date it will be providing to you here. Expiry date. Now they have given the expiry date for the 1 year. Okay, 1 year. So in this case, I would like to collect the today's date. From there, I would like to add 365 days from now onwards. So that here I'm using system.today.add days. There is a ready-made method has been given by Salesforce with the name add days. I'm going to be adding 365 days. Okay, like that. To get the today's date of your Salesforce server, we are using this system.today method. System.today method is getting the today's date. And then here expiry date I'm indicating that, okay, 1 year from now onwards. So that here I'm collecting the today's date. For this today's date, I'm adding 365 days by using that add days method, which will be adding the 365 days for today's date. From there, it will be generating the date value. It will be displaying, storing inside that expiry date variable. Now, so this is how we are going to be defining the variables, and then we are going to be assigning the values for your variables. Now we can raise a question. Sir, to define the variable, we have written some separate line of code. To assign the value, we have written some separate line of code. Can we mix both the things into a single one? Yes, there is a possibility here. Like for example, how can we do that? Integer, some customer code equals to, we can assign some 240001. Like that we can assign. Integer, some customer name equals to some Ram Kumar. Like that we can able to store like this. That means here we can define the variables separately, we can assign the values separately also. Or else both the statements we can combine together into a single line like this also. That means upon defining the variable itself, we can assign the values also. Okay, any one of the syntax we can follow. Feeling comfortable with the programming or still any difficulty? No, right? Any confusions? Stack memory. Stack memory, not in the database. Database in the sense we have to store inside the object, then only it will be storing the database. Whatever the variables we have defined, all the variables values will be storing inside the stack memory only. Okay, not in the database. This is the temporary memory. That's what I told you here. Once application has been closed or signed out, this variable data will be lost. Okay. Oh, sorry. Clear? Now. So now the next one here. As of now, we have defined the variables and we have assigned some values. And now I want to print these values. How can we print? How can we print the values here? Now let's see. Printing are output statements. Printing statements are output statements. So once the values have been getting stored or once the values have been getting collected, then in order to print the values, okay, every programming language is providing one output statement. Output means what? To print the results or to print the values, to print the errors also, whatever. So now in this case, every programming language is having its own syntax. Like, suppose if it is a C programming, what is that method? Printf. we are using the printf method, okay, to supply that value here. If it is a C++, we are using the cout. Okay, we can specify the message which you want to print. Suppose if it is some Java programming, system.out.println. Here we can able to specify that message. If it is a C#.NET, it will be having that message like as console.writeLine. Here also we can able to write this. Now in this case, every programming language is having its own printing statement, but now in my Apex programming language, where we can print, how can we print? Result will be available in which file? Debug log file. Okay, that already we have discussed that once your Apex programming execution has been done, finally the result will be getting generated. That already we have discussed here. During that Apex programming execution life cycle, we have discussed in the previous class that already we have discussed that once Apex programming code has been getting executed by the Apex runtime engine, then it is going to be generating the result. Result is going to be converting into the HTML format. That HTML format of response is going to be writing inside a file called as debug log file. Now this debug log file is going to be sending to the developer as a response. The user can see the result inside the debug log file. So whatever the result you are going to print, whatever the output you are going to print, whatever the message you are going to print, we have to print inside this debug log file here. So in order to print some message inside the debug log file, we are going to be using a ready-made method which has been given by the Salesforce by default, that is called as system.debug method. System is a ready-made class which has been given by Salesforce here. Okay. System is a ready-made class which has been given by Salesforce by default. In that system class, we are having a method called as debug method. Inside this debug method, we have to specify the message to be get print in the debug log file. Okay. Whatever the message you want to print on the debug log file, specify that message inside that system.debug statement. By using this system.debug statement, we can able to print the message onto the debug log file. Whatever the results, whatever the outputs you want to print, all those messages we can able to print inside this inside the debug log file by using system.debug statement. For example, I want to print some message here. So we can use system.debug. But whatever the message you are going to print, that message has to be enclosed in the single quotes here. I want to indicate that welcome to Apex programming. Welcome to Apex programming. Like that I would like to print. I want to indicate system.debug. Now this is my first Apex program. Like that we can able to print that messages here. This is the way we are going to printing the results onto the debug log file in Apex programming. These are few fundamental basics. And then in the next session we'll see how can we write the code, how many ways are there to write the code. In Salesforce, to write your Apex programming code, we are having 4 ways are available. Okay, 4 ways. Suppose if you want to create an object, how many ways are there? To create an object, 2 ways. One is standard navigation, second one schema builder. Like the similar way, if you want to create, if you want to write your Apex programming code, we have 4 ways are available. Like we have standard navigation, that is one mechanism. Second one is a developer console. Third one is execute anonymous window. And the fourth one is Eclipse IDE or Visual Studio Code Editor. These are the 4 mechanisms. To invoke your Apex programming code, to execute that code, we have 9 ways. Okay, we have 9 ways in Apex programming. Like we can use execute anonymous window. Second one, we can use triggers. Third one is batch programming. Fourth one, schedule programming. And the fifth one is we are using the email services. And the sixth one is we are going to be using the process builder. Seventh one, we can use Eclipse IDE. Eighth one, we can use web services. Ninth one, we can able to use the APIs. Okay, these are the 9 ways we can able to use in order to invoke your Apex programming code. Okay, so that here by completion of this entire development and the integration, we'll see all the 9 ways also here. Okay, now, so in this case, how to write our code and how can we execute our code, we'll see in the next session here. Okay, now, and the next development session will be on Monday morning again. Okay, development session will be on the next Monday morning. Tomorrow we are having that admin features are available. Okay, so in the tomorrow session timings will be